Good afternoon. Calling to order the meeting of the Housing Policy and Development Committee. This is our regularly scheduled meeting. I'm joined today by Council Members Ellison, Reich, and Schrader. We're a quorum of the committee, so we can conduct our business. If you look at the agenda, you'll see that we have a series of public hearings and 2 consent items. I'd like to take up the consent items first. The first is setting a public hearing for August 28th to consider the ordinance amending Title 12, Chapter 244 of the Code relating to Housing Maintenance Code. This is to add provisions establishing renter protections. The second consent item, number 6 on the agenda, is also setting a public hearing for the same date to consider the City of Minneapolis's Department of Housing and Urban Development Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, often called CAPERS. We're also authorizing submittal of the report to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I will move both of those consent items. Anybody want to pull anything off? Sorry. Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That passes. Now we'll move on to our public hearing agenda. The first few are land sales, and the first is a Northside Art Space Lofts. Actually, this is approving, forgot we moved this one first. This is approving a tax increment financing plan for the Northside Art Space Lofts at 229 Irving Avenue North. And I believe we'll have a brief staff report before we open the public hearing. Welcome.
Hello. Good afternoon, Chair Gordon and members of the committee. I'm Esther Robard, Senior Project Coordinator in CPED Residential Finance. Today, the committee has 2 actions to consider related to the Northside Art Space Lofts project, a 100-unit multifamily housing development that will be located at 229 Irving Avenue North in the Harrison neighborhood. The building will be 5 stories above grade and will include 100 units of affordable artist housing. 70 affordable units will be made available to households at or below 60% AMI, 20 units will be reserved for households at or below 50% AMI, and 10 units will be reserved for households at or below 30% AMI. The proposed unit mix includes 24 studios, 32 one-bedroom units, 18 two-bedroom units, and 25 three-bedroom units. The building will include below-grade parking with 104 stalls. Additionally, there will be 8,000 square feet of common space to support the residents in their creative endeavors and to support the residential community. Northside Art Space Lofts will also serve as an arts incubator and catalyst for further development of arts initiatives in the area. ArtSpace's community development partner on the project, Juxtaposition Arts, is a nonprofit with a history of community building, youth employment, and arts training in the neighborhood. Juxta will have classroom and event space in the building, embedding community arts assets within housing. The total development cost for the project is $29,951,219. The first staff recommendation is for establishing a new housing TIF district that will be within the newly created Northside Art Space Lofts development project. The City of Minneapolis will issue a pay-as-you-go tax increment note in an amount not to exceed $1,343,000. Staff has reviewed the other sources available to this project and concluded that each has been maximized to the extent possible and that the amount of the TIF recommended is the lowest amount necessary for the project to proceed. It is currently projected that the TIF note will be repaid by tax increment in 26 years, the maximum duration that is allowed by state statute. The developer has also agreed to the city's recapture provisions. The second staff recommendation is for issuance of up to $14,700,000 in tax-exempt bonds that will fund the permanent loan for this project. The recommended TIF and housing revenue bond approvals represent the final sources of financing necessary to complete this project. If approved, construction is anticipated to begin in September 2019. With that, I'll take any questions.
I don't see any questions at this time. Thanks for your report.
Thank you.
Now, this action requires a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing now. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on this item? Anybody's welcome to come up and tell us a little more about the project or what issues or concerns you might have. Welcome.
Chair Gordon, members of the committee, my name is Greg Handberg. I'm the Senior Vice President of Properties for ArtSpace Projects, the developer of this project. We just simply like to thank the committee for your consideration and thank staff for their hard work in preparing this package. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here and thank you for all the work that you put into this project as well. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak on this? Seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing. Maybe Councilmember Ellison, you'd like to move this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Excited to see this project finally come into fruition. I know that this closing this gap was a tall sort of order, and so I want to thank our staff and the people on the project for getting here. You know, I started off as a student at Juxta back when I was 7 years old, so it's pretty cool to see them as a part of this project. And while most people know them for being like on West Broadway, they actually like had a classroom in Washington and used to have a classroom on Glenwood really close to this location. So really excited to see that partnership as a part of this as well. So I'm happy to move approval.
Wonderful, thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, I'll take a vote then. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. That motion carries. So we'll move on to our second item, and we're actually going to combine item 2 and 3 together for the purposes of the report. I think because these both have to do with the project Minnow, which is the affordable housing project near the Franklin Station. And I think first we'll get a report. The first item is on a land sale, and this is actually a small piece of property that the city owns near or at the development site. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair Gordon and members of the committee. My name is Arlene Robinson, Senior Project Coordinator with CPED Residential Finance. And today I have 3 actions for your consideration. All are related to Minnow project located around 2105 Cedar Avenue South in Ward 6, the Ventura Village neighborhood. And the proposed project is a 6-story mixed-use, mixed-income building containing 110 affordable apartment units. 44 of the units are 60% AMI, 42 of the units are 50% AMI, and 24 of the units are 30% AMI. The development will consist of 10 studios, 15 one-bedrooms, 55 two-bedrooms, and 33 bedroom units. And it will have 1 level of underground parking with 60 stalls. The first floor will include the Red Lake Substance Abuse Mental Health Clinic and Red Lake Band Urban Embassy. The project's located at the former site of the Navigation Center and is notable for the significant number of large family units and 30% AMI units. The total cost of the project is approximately $42 million. The first staff recommendation is for the sale of the side yard at 1800 22nd Street East to RLBC Franklin Station Limited Partnership. The city acquired the parcel in fee in 1931 for the realignment of Hiawatha Avenue. The current configuration of Hiawatha and the frontage streets no longer requires the city to retain this right-of-way. The reuse value of this parcel was appraised at $50,000. The purchaser requested a write-down of the sales price to $10 in exchange for free extension of the Navigation Center lease to the city. The second staff recommendation is for passage of a resolution approving the tax increment financing plan for Minnow with a pay-as-you-go TIF note not to exceed $2,015,000. Staff has reviewed the other sources available to this project and have concluded that each has been maximized to the extent possible, and that the amount of the TIF recommended is the lowest amount necessary for the project to proceed. It is anticipated that the duration of the TIF district will be 26 years, and the developer has agreed to the city's typical recapture provisions. The final staff recommendation is for the passage of a resolution authorizing preliminary and final approval for the issuance of tax-exempt multifamily entitlement housing revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $22 million. The bond issuance will leverage just over $14 million in syndication proceeds from the 4% tax credits. The TIF and bonds are the final sources of financing necessary to complete the project's financing. If approved, construction is anticipated to begin this fall, and I will take any questions you may have.
I don't see any questions. I think you answered them all. I'm very excited that this is the final financing and this will allow the project to go forward hopefully this fall. We actually have to have a public hearing on the land sale as well as on the tax increment financing plan and bond issuance. So I'll open the public hearing and see if there's anybody here who wants to speak on the land sale. Anybody who wants to just speak generally on the whole project? Be great to hear from you.
Alicia Gaylord. I'm the current Director of Economic Development and Planning for the Red Lake Nation. I'm very honored that you guys have put so much time and energy into this, and I'm really thankful that you guys are considering us for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to this? Seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing, and I'll move the resolution. Do you think we need to take separate votes on this, Madam Clerk? All right, why don't we move the land sale first? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That carries then. This is actually really a fantastic story, so I just want to stop for a minute before I move the rest of this. Just if we think back to what we were dealing with last summer at this time in terms of all the homeless people who were living near this site and how Red Lake was able to step forward and assist us with the creation of the Navigation Center so that we could help those people who were there and work on that. And the dream at that time we all knew, and in fact I think it got delayed a little bit because of the Navigation Center, and appreciate that enormously, but was to put in an apartment so there'd be permanent, stable, affordable housing. And the affordability of this project is amazing, the number that are affordable at 30%, that you can afford to do this. I think the council, the mayor, the people of Minneapolis are really glad that we're able to use this kind of financing. And I think that I can't speak for all the residents and all the taxpayers of the city, but I like to pretend I can sometimes. And in this case, I believe that they think this is a very worthy investment. And I think it's going to be great to see this up and running and the other things that will go on as a result of this. And this is going to be a real catalyst right there by the light rail station in a community that really needs affordable housing in a city that is really struggling to get enough housing for everybody. So thank you so much. And with that little speech, then I'll move item 3, which is actually approving 3 separate resolutions and authorizing a redevelopment contract. Any questions on that? All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. That motion carries. And that brings us to our 4th item, which is another public hearing, and this is another fairly large and significant project with lots of players involved. This has to do with the land sale and the tax increment financing plan for Portland at 3rd. And we'll get a staff report from Ms. Perrell. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Gordon and committee members. I'm Rebecca Perrell. I'm a Senior Project Coordinator in CPED. And I'm going to start off today noticing that our Minneapolis Fire Station number 1, located in downtown East at 530 South 3rd Street, was starting to be too small for the operations our fire department needed. With the increased residential growth and business activity in Easttown, the fire department identified a need for a larger station and one that could accommodate additional apparatus to service the growing area. At the same time, Sherman Associates was negotiating the terms of a purchase agreement for the surface parking lot adjacent to Fire Station number 1. The parking lot and the fire station make up the majority of the block bound by 3rd Street South, 5th Avenue South, Portland Avenue, and Washington Avenue. Sherman approached the city with a proposal for a mixed-use redevelopment project covering the parking lot and Fire Station number 1 site. The project would incorporate a new Fire Station 1, a 90-unit affordable housing project, a 312-space public parking ramp, a 22-story market rate housing tower with 238 units and approximately 7,000 square feet of commercial on the first floor at Portland and Washington. Today, I am before you with several City Council actions related to accomplishing the redevelopment of this block, including the purchase of a new Fire Station 1, the sale of the current Fire Station number 1, and tax increment financing, or TIF, to assist with the construction of the affordable housing project. And I thought I'd put a site plan on, if I can figure it out. What button do I push? Oh, it's already on there. Look at that. So the pink here in this corner is Fire Station. So this is 3rd Street South, and 5th Avenue South. I'll start with Fire Station number 1. The new Fire Station number 1 will move the station less than a block from the corner of 3rd Street South and Portland to 3rd Street South and 5th. The new fire station will be incorporated into this larger mixed-use project with parking below and housing above. This requires highly coordinated development and construction management, best achieved by a single developer and a single general contractor. Therefore, the city negotiated purchasing a completed turnkey Fire Station number 1 from the developer for $12 million and built to city specifications. The developer plans to begin construction of the new fire station in January of 2020 and will comply with the city's standard civil rights requirements in its construction. Second, the current Fire Station number 1. To ensure continuous operation of a fire station, the city will not sell the current station until after the new station is operational. Once the fire station moves station operations to the new station, the city will sell the current fire station to the developer for the fair use value of $680,000. After the sale, the developer will demolish the station to build the Portland at 3rd affordable housing project. Just thought I'd share the west elevation. This is also in the attachments to the council report. And here are the 3 apparatus bays that will be facing 5th. This is the market rate tower, the 22-story market rate tower, and these are 4 of the stories shown above the fire station of the affordable housing project, Portland at 3rd.
So the fire station is 1 story?
No.
Okay.
There's I'll get to this in a second, but the affordable housing project is 6 stories. 4 stories are shown above the fire station from the elevation. So the fire station has 2 floors, but it takes 3 stories of a housing project to accommodate the clearance, the floor-to-ceiling clearance that the fire station needs for their apparatus. So the fire station has 2 stories that take 3 stories of residential for accommodating their needs.
Okay, thank you.
Third, the Portland at 3rd affordable housing project. The Portland at 3rd affordable housing project will be a $25 million 6-story building with 90 affordable rental units. 72 of the units will be affordable at 60% of the area median income. 18 will be affordable at or below 50% of the area median income. These 18 units will be available to households with incomes as low as 30% AMI due to the inclusion of project-based Section 8 units, which the city negotiated to have included in the project. The building, as you notice on the elevations, will also, or on the site map, rather, will also wrap the public parking ramp, the 312-space public parking ramp there at the center of the site. In addition to a first mortgage, developer equity, and a deferred developer fee, Sherman & Associates requested pay-as-you-go tax increment financing assistance from the city and plans to apply for housing revenue bonds from Hennepin County. The report today recommends authorizing the issuance of tax increment revenue notes to Sherman & Associates or an affiliated entity in a principal amount of not to exceed $11 million. This TIF request will only assist the construction of the 90 affordable units, while the tax increment generated by 3 project components, being the affordable housing, the market rate housing, and the public parking ramp, will be used to finance the TIF notes. The funds will only be used to construct the affordable housing. Staff acknowledges that this is an uncommon approach to capital assembly for an affordable housing project. It's due to a unique set of circumstances and is driven by the complexity of the site and the stringent timing considerations for the large development where the timing of each component must be predictable and specific, something that is not possible with our traditional competitive multi-source financing. Current projections indicate that the TIF notes will be repaid over 22 years, which is less than the 26-year maximum allowed by state statute. And the developer has agreed to the city's proposed TIF recapture provision and will adhere to the city's contracting provisions on the construction contract for the affordable housing. The project will remain affordable for a minimum of 30 years. That's all I have prepared today, but I am here to take questions if there are any.
I don't see any questions. I can just want to clarify that Property Services has reviewed this for the fire station and the fire department, and all the plans were approved before it even got to our committee. So just to make
Good
sure
point.
everybody knows.
It was a collaborative effort between CPED and Finance and Property Services.
Well, thank you very much for the report and the informative packet as well. I will open the public hearing then on this matter. Is there anybody here who would wish to speak about it? Developers here, you want to maybe say a few words?
Thank you, Chairman Gordon and council members. I'm George Sherman with Sherman Associates. This is a very interesting project that involves affordable housing, a new fire station, market rate housing that is all integrated into one development. There are very few of these done in the country. I think this is going to be a great example of how to do good urban planning and integrate a number of different components to it. The fire station, as you heard, has taken a long time to go through the design process with the fire department. A lot of cost review to make sure the city was getting a very, very good value on the fire station, and also incorporate the growth needs that the city needs for that east end of downtown. It is a complicated project that involves having to build the fire station first before we can do the affordable housing, but at the same time, we have to bring on the structured parking ramp in the high-rise building. The developer is, it's a pay-as-you-go TIF note. The developer is capitalizing the pay-as-you-go TIF note independently. We are borrowing that from our own resources to put into the affordable housing. So it's a model of using the market rate housing to help pay for the affordable housing component of it. I'm here to answer any particular questions that you have about the project or about the company. Thank you.
I don't see any questions from committee members right now. Thank you so much for being here and for all the work that's gone into this by everybody up to this point. Seeing no other questions or comments, then I'll close the public hearing. Then I'll ask if there's any comments or anybody would like to make a motion. Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to make a motion because I'm not supporting the request, but I do just want to make a couple of comparisons and make a couple of comments. First of all, I have no issue with the developer and the work they're doing. I think they do great work. I think they've done great work downtown. I think the structure of this for a $10.678.9 million TIF district is about as good as it's going to get for a TIF district of this size. I just fundamentally disagree that we should spend more money, 10-point-something million dollars, on this one project than we have in the entire Affordable Housing Trust Fund on a regular year. And ultimately, there might be some places where we find it to be too expensive to build affordable housing because that kind of tax increment could go a lot farther with a lot more projects in other locations. I commend the council member of the ward and the staff and the developer for doing affordable housing at this site, but at some point, it's just too expensive. And asking for tax increment in this amount, in my opinion, is just too expensive. We're talking about moving hundreds of people to this location, and we're not going to have the money in our budget to pay for police, fire, public works. We're not going to have money in the school's budget because they usurp that money. There's not going to be money in the park board's budget because tax increment uses that money. There's not going to be money in the county's budget because we usurp that for tax increment. Yet we're putting hundreds of people in this location who all have needs for services. And so that means everybody else is going to pay for those services for these residents moving into this location. I find it different than the two projects that I was not here to vote for earlier, although I would have voted for both of those projects, ultimately because I believe those are projects that are transforming areas of market failure. Even though the first project is 10 houses from the ward that I represent, Harrison has not seen new development in a long period of time. And this is a transformative project for that neighborhood. I think you'd be very pressed to say that East Downtown or the Mills District, surrounded by projects that the Sherman and Associates and others have done, is an area of market failure. It's not even an area of market failure for affordable housing. There's the St. Anthony Mills Apartments, there's Manual Housing, there's Project for Pride and Living, all within blocks of this location. So for me, this is just simply too much money to be spent in this location to get affordable housing, and I think the money could ultimately be better spent. Generally speaking, I'm not a great fan of tax increment, everyone knows that, but on some projects, like the two earlier, those are projects that are going to be transformative for neighborhoods that have not seen a lot of development. In this case, I just don't think you can say that. To be fair, I haven't talked to anyone else on the council about it. I'm not lobbying it. I just feel like I need to stay true to who I am as it pertains to the use of tax increment. And I feel like anything other than that would have just been, being quiet because I like the developer. And I just don't think that's who I am, and I can't be that person on this issue either. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you raising your voice and sharing your thoughts. Any other comments or questions from anybody? Then I'll move this item forward with the associated resolutions. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no.
No.
That motion carries. And that concludes the business before us today, so this meeting is adjourned.